बंद रखा था थोड़ी देर के लिए। हाँ, प्रणय सर अभी आएंगे 6 बजे। 6 बज गया, मतलब जस्ट ज्वाइन करने वाले हैं हमें। ठीक। Hello. Hi friends. And welcome to IS Gurukul. I am Pranay Agarwal. I am the sociology faculty here. Most of you should be aware of that. So, let us begin our today and our course with a with a chanting of Om thrice. Okay, so please close your eyes for that. And if you are atheist or belong to a different religion, you can simply just close your eyes for a moment. Okay? One sec. Chaliye. Please open your eyes and welcome back. Online students and offline students, both, please confirm I am audible to everybody. Am I audible at the back? Online students, am I audible? Please confirm by typing yes. Thank you. Yes? ठीक है. So friends, today is an introductory lecture where I'll be sharing with you broadly what we have on the agenda for the day. I'll be sharing what will be my pedagogy or teaching methodology, how you are expected to make use of this course or what you are expected to do over the next 4 to 5 months to derive maximum benefit from the course and connect with the subject of sociology and maximize your score to whatever extent possible in the exam. I'll be also addressing some recurrent doubts that a lot of students have based on my experience, and then of course you are also welcome to ask any doubts you may have during the this thing. You can simply raise your hand and ask doubts. I'll be also asking you every now and then to, for any doubts that you guys have. Okay? So that is that. Regarding how we will be proceeding in the course, so we will have classes mostly 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. Some weeks I may request you to also come on Saturdays. If, in my assessment we are lagging behind like where we should have been, and there's a certain ground I need to cover or some such criteria. Otherwise, mostly 5 days a week. It will be a 2.5 hour class with possibly a 5 to 10 minutes break in the middle. I will not be following the sequence of topics given in the syllabus. It will be slightly modified sequence that I'll be following. How and why it has been modified? The reason it has been modified by me is because to me it seems it makes greater logical sense to study it in that modified sequence. So it's much easier for a student to understand. How it has been modified, for example, if you pick up your Sociology Paper 1 syllabus, you have the first unit is the discipline of sociology, the discipline. It's kind of an introductory this thing, within which the first topic is the emergence of sociology. And then you have sociology and common sense, sociology and other disciplines like what is the relationship of sociology with anthropology and political science and psychology, etc. Right? The second unit in paper 1 is sociology as a science. So we discuss whether it is a scientific discipline, can the scientific methodology be followed in sociology, what are the counter views to that, etc. The third unit is sociological research. And the fourth unit is thinkers. After the fourth unit, you have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which are various social institutions or social arrangements like family and religion and political system and the economy, inequality, etc. And then you have a final last unit called social change. This is the sequence of topics in your Sociology Paper 1 syllabus. The way we will be taking it up is we'll talk about the emergence of sociology first. Then we will be talking about whether sociology is a scientific discipline or not. So we will not be doing all those other topics mentioned in the first unit, namely sociology and common sense or sociology and other disciplines, in the beginning of our course. Okay? We will also not be doing sociological research in the initial days. Then we will be, after discussing whether sociology is scientific or not, we'll be discussing various thinkers. And then moving on to various social institutions, family, etc., etc. And towards the end of paper 1, we will be discussing the initial units we had left out, namely sociology and common sense, sociology and other disciplines, sociological research, etc. And why it is so, please appreciate, thinkers are foundational to our understanding of paper 1. Once you have gone through all these units, those topics which we had left out earlier, namely sociology and common sense or sociology and other disciplines, they will become very, very obvious to you. So if you've studied, say, Karl Marx, thinker, or his writings, you will automatically understand, or without much telling, you will appreciate what is the relationship between sociology and economics or sociology and history. Are you with me? So that is the only reason I have slightly modified the sequence in which we'll be covering the topics. But rest assured, we will be covering the syllabus very thoroughly, all the topics. In fact, more than that, there are two broad criteria that I use to guide me in what is to be taught and to what extent. I advise you guys also to follow the same two guiding lights, namely the UPSC Sociology syllabus and the previous year's questions. So several topics which do not find a mention in the syllabus, but have been recurrently asked in the previous years in the exam will also be covered in the course. We consider them an integral part of the syllabus, even if they don't find an explicit mention in it. All right? So that is that. So that is how I'll be taking up the course. It will take us about 4 to 5 months, depending on our collective pace, how we proceed, about 4 to 5 months to complete the syllabus. All right. During these 4 to 5 months, what is expected of you, or what approach should you have to the subject? You will be expected to devote about 3.5 to 4 hours to the subject daily during the duration of the course. So for the next 4 or 5 months, devote about 3.5 to 4 hours daily. And I can see it in your faces. Yes, what somebody just verbalized. Is it other than the class? The answer is no. It is including the class duration. So 2.5 hours class lecture plus another 1 to 1.5 hours of subsequent study. And how you will utilize that, I'll share in just a bit. All right. Now, also appreciate you are not preparing only for sociology. That is obvious but needs to be said. In other words, don't get wholly immersed in the subject, or don't devote your whole day to only sociology. You are preparing for the civil services exam, in which the optional carries a weightage of 500 marks out of 1750 in the mains. The rest 1250 is GS and SA. So clearly, in other words, friends, during these next 4-5 months, you can't afford to only study sociology. Please carry on your GS preparation alongside. So if you are devoting about 3.5 to 4 hours to sociology, another 3.5 to 4 hours one would expect you to devote to your general studies preparation. A typical UPSC candidate devotes anywhere 7 to 9 hours on a sustained basis per day to the exam. So about 3.5-4 hours to socio, 3.5-4 hours to GS, and 1 hour to current affairs or newspaper reading. Theek? That is how you structure your day. Now, what does one require to score well in the sociology paper? What is the approach one should have? And a lot of people, frankly, also have a nagging doubt that I have taken a decision opting for sociology, but is it the right decision? Le to liya, par sahi liya ya nahi liya? The answer to that is, you want to hear that, a very emphatic yes. The answer to that is time will tell. Okay? And what it depends on is how much effort you put into it. The subject is pretty decent in the sense you do have many candidates getting selected every year with sociology optional. But then again, not everybody with sociology optional would clear the exam. Zahir hai, as with any other optional. The subject is easy to understand and easy to connect with. But scoring marks in UPSC in any portion, including sociology optional, is not a walk in the park. UPSC will ensure that you put in a decent amount of effort before it awards you decent or more than decent marks in the exam. मेहनत तो करनी पड़ेगी. If you put in a lot of effort, there is a decent chance you will score decently in sociology. If you do not put in decent effort, I can guarantee you, you will not score well in the subject or in any portion of this exam for that matter. Okay? So, the subject is easy to understand, but it's not so easy to score marks in. And no optional is for that matter. Okay? This exam is not easy to score marks in. Because the topper also scores how much? All India rank 1. 52, 53, 55%. Most of you would have a better score in your graduation than that. So this exam is difficult to score in. The subject matter is not too tough, but there's a different set of challenges that one encounters. So you have to be prepared for that. I don't want to sound gloomy or you're like, क्यों इतनी बुराई कर रहे हो? बुराई नहीं कर रहा हूँ, वास्तविकता आपको दिखा रहा हूँ. I'm just sharing the reality. Also, one doubt a lot of students have is that I don't have a background in sociology. So is it the right optional for me? Me being a science student or engineering student. I've never studied a humanities subject like sociology and now I've taken it as my optional. In that case, is it the right choice? The answer is time will tell. The answer is it is immaterial. What your background, academic background is immaterial as far as being able to connect with the subject of socio is concerned. Just to make you comfortable with not having a background, academic background in sociology. Those of you who do not have an academic background in sociology, please raise your hands. And look around, guys. Okay? This should be reassuring. So these are the people you are competing with. Barely anybody has a background in, academic background in sociology. Including those who clear the exam with this optional. In fact, most, for some reason, 60-65% tend to have science and engineering background, those who take up sociology or clear with it. 15-20% have commerce, accountancy, management background. 10-12% may have humanities background. And fewer still would have sociology background. Okay? So, not having an academic background in the subject does not in any way prevent you from understanding what it is about. And developing a very decent level of understanding what is required for the UPSC exam. So keep that worry aside. That is the only thing I'm telling you. That is the least of your worries. There are other things to worry about and I'll tell you also what to worry about. But this is not what you should be worrying about, that you don't have a background. Okay? The subject has a reasonably well-defined syllabus. It has what many regard as a short syllabus, but then short is a relative term. So it has a shorter syllabus than an optional like mathematics or PSIR or law or history for that matter. And it would be, I would say, comparable in size or, the amount of time and months required to complete as, say, a subject like anthropology or philosophy. But it has a reasonably short and pretty well-defined kind of a syllabus. The previous year's questions provide a very useful guide to what kind of questions can be asked in the future examinations. So, that reduces our workload. It gives us a clear direction in which direction we have to prepare. You have a decent number of selections and it is very, very I can almost, vouch for the fact that each and every one of you will be able to understand 99% or more of the topics in the syllabus. There's hardly something which any of us will not understand. Okay? So it's very understandable. It is very relatable kind of a subject. But clearly not every student who takes up sociology scores great in it. Some do and many don't. So what does it take to score well in the sociology optional papers is as follows. First thing you require is conceptual clarity. ठीक? What do you mean by that? That seems like one of those, cliched, overused phrases, particularly in the UPSC exam, conceptual clarity. होती क्या है ये? What do you understand when somebody says conceptual clarity? Anybody? You must have come across this phrase. Subject में conceptual clarity होनी चाहिए. But ये होती क्या है? तभी तो होगी, अगर पता हो होती क्या है. Yeah? Basics clear होने चाहिए. Yes. When we say your understanding of the subject has to be built on conceptual clarity, we mean that, you should not be blindly mugging up content. You need to remember content, no doubt. But that remembering also has to be based upon an understanding of the concepts, theories, topics. ब्लाइंडली रटना नहीं है, समझना है, और समझ के फिर मेमोराइज भी करना है. आर यू विद मी? एंड दिस सब्जेक्ट, of all subjects, this subject is one where it is very easy, should I say, I dare say, to develop conceptual clarity. And I'm saying that with full responsibility. Why I say it is easy to develop conceptual clarity in a subject like socio, despite bulk of us not having a background in it. We may not have studied it in books, but we have lived our lives 20, 21, 25 years in the society. So we have some. Is family alien to you? पता है family क्या theory है, क्या चीज है? पता है, you have lived in it. Yes or no? You may not have studied it in किताबें, in books, but you have a great deal of experience living in a family. This is what we study. We don't study 4-year theorem or something like that. Something which we can't connect with, or which appears too theoretical. Whatever we study, we have direct lived experience of it. Whether it is the family or religion or caste system or inequality, are you with me? Or the rich-poor gap, yes or no? And these are really what we study. So, it is a very relatable kind of a subject. And when you relate to it, that is how you develop conceptual clarity. And how do you relate to it? Whatever topic we are studying, you relate it to your own life, your own lived experiences. So if we are studying family, for instance, it is one of the social institutions or topics in our paper 1 syllabus also, paper 2 syllabus also. Family and kinship or relationships. So when we study family, you relate to your own experience of family. We will study various theories of family. What are theories of family? These are explanations or analysis of family given by different scholars or perspectives. I'll just give you a hint. So there is something called the functional theory of family. Okay, I'm not explaining what functional theory is, but broadly it identifies the positive contributions of family to society. Now, you do not have a background in sociology, but can you suggest some positive contributions that the family makes with your engineering background or commerce and accountancy background or whatever? Family का कुछ positive योगदान है समाज में, and what is that? It gives us. Raise your hand so that I can put a face to the voice. It gives us love and emotional support. Beti? Okay, so it's like a unified group or a, cohesive kind of a group. Beti? It inculcates certain values in the children or the next generation. Isi ko in sociology we call it socialization. Alright? But absolutely, this is what it is. Yes? It makes a child confident. Brother? It binds together, as was mentioned earlier as well. The initial education or training, starting right from potty training, is given by the family. What kind of clothes you wear, how you dress up based on your gender, what is to be eaten and what is to be not eaten. It's all a part of our learning experience. That first learning, or what we call socialization, which is done by the family. This is the functional theory of family. We have not studied it, but we have all experienced it or know it intuitively. Are you with me? Then you will come across, say, feminist criticisms of the family from a feminist viewpoint. Now, what is the broad feminist position? That women are an exploited and oppressed lot. Okay, so the family is an exploitative social institution. Very broadly, it's a very broad brushstroke with which I'm generalizing, and I know that, but just to drive home a point. So can you, based on your own lived experiences from within your own families, now you may be shy, acknowledging that within your family such things happen. So you can always say in my neighbor's family or uncle's family. But have you seen any sort of practices or things which seem oppressive for women within your and my families? Like domestic labor. माँ जो है वो नौकरानी को रिड्यूस हो जाती है. Yes or no? The woman is overburdened or solely responsible for the domestic chores. चाहे वो बर्तन मांजने हो, कपड़े धोने हो, बच्चे रियर करने हो, बूढ़ों का वो करना हो, taking care of the elderly and the sick. बेटी? So women are financially dependent on the male members. Yeah, you look at the property ownership patterns within your own families. Whether your father owns most of the property or your mother does. And when push comes to shove, whether you will get the property or your brother does. Beti? The men have greater say in many of the decisions. Domestic violence. Yeah? Beautiful. She's saying women do not have the right to serve their parents in old age. Or sons are burdened with taking care of parents. Is that inappropriate? Yeah, they don't have funerary rites or, they can't perform them. Absolutely. Migration after marriage. तो ये तुम्हारा घर नहीं है ना, तुम्हें अपने घर जाना है, ये पराया घर है. Yes or no? तुम पराया धन हो. Dowry. Practices like dowry. How many of you, all my educated, city-based, liberal-minded, now students of sociology kind of male students will take dowry? None will raise their hands, but nearly all of them will. You know? In fact, you will also, after having studied the subject, you will also develop a rationale for dowry. You will be able to legitimize and justify it. Huh? Yes? Okay. So, we have a prime candidate. Chaliye. So, point is, we have not studied the feminist theory of family. We have not studied the functional theory of family. Yet, we are able to appreciate what these theories say. Different scholars also say near about the same things. Are you with me? So the point is, friends, the subject is very, very relatable. The more you connect with it, you link it to whatever is happening in your own social world or in the wider society, the better conceptual clarity you will be able to develop. Are you with me? So don't take it as theory that this fellow said this or usko rat liya. If you do that, now in our education system, a lot of clearing of exams, etc. is based on ratta. And I completely concede that and know that as an educator. It's fine as long as it works. In the UPSC exam, it is difficult to work with pure ratta or purely mugging up because, the exam cycle is very long drawn. Unlike, say, college exams, etc. So what you are studying here today, or the next 4 months, you'll be using it 1.5, 2 years later. At the very least, 1 year later. Yes or no? If you write the mains next year, after clearing the prelims, which is a hurdle in itself. So for whatever you learn to stay with you, your learning has to be based on conceptual clarity. Purely rat ke jaoge to bhool jaoge. So what you need to do, you need to first understand, connect with the subject, link it to the world and happenings around you, and then ratto also. Okay? You need to revise and remember things also, but based upon a clear conceptual understanding. Clear? So one thing you require is conceptual clarity. Second thing that you require is multiple revisions. Multiple revisions. Once you understand the subject and connect with it, it seems quite easy. It seems very intuitive. इसमें पढ़ने का क्या ऐसा लगता है, in fact? What is there to be taught or to study in this? Why are you teaching such basic things? A lot of my students wonder. The challenge then remains to remember and quickly recall. See, you are not here learning for the sake of learning. Like it or not. You are here learning for the sake of clearing a specific exam and pursuing a particular career. समझना आसान है, याद रखना is a challenge. And to be able to recall in the examination hall quickly, and you need to recall quickly, and reproduce it on the answer sheet, you require quick recall. You require multiple revisions. How many revisions? Multiple, very good. But how many? If we have to quantify that multiple, minimum 5. And I'm saying it in all seriousness, not to intimidate you guys. Minimum 5 revisions of the full syllabus you will require. And how you will achieve that, we'll try to figure that out as well today. So I'll be suggesting you a way. 5 and more revisions is what we'll be targeting before the actual exam, so that things are literally on our fingertips and can be spelled. In the examination hall situation, you don't have time to think. You are so hard pressed on time. Okay? So for a 10 marker, you get about 8 minutes, within which you have to read the question, interpret it, recall what is to be written, develop a rough sketch or an outline, what you will be writing, and writing down doing the actual writing. So things need to be literally on your fingertips, which requires multiple revisions. All right? Third thing that one requires is linking with what? Yes? Syllabus. Of course. But linking the syllabus topics with what? Current affairs. Good. If you raise your hands, I'll be able to give you shabashi or brickbats, whatever you deserve for that comment. But raise your hand so that I can put a face to the voice. So, current affairs linkage. That brings us to the question ki bhaiya, how important is current affairs, how many questions one can expect, or what weightage, and so on and so forth. And the second part would be, how do we tackle or study current affairs specifically for socio. Let me address the first part now. Second part I'll be discussing as we move ahead. How important is current affairs? Quite. If I have to quantify that quite, or elaborate upon it a bit, I would say direct questions from current affairs in sociology papers are limited. In paper one is mostly static. When I say it is mostly static, I mean that you rarely get a question that something has happened, something is in news, and you get a question from that in paper one. That would happen rarely. All right? So, to that extent, current affairs is more relevant in paper 2. In any case, much of the news that we consume is about our own society, Indian society. Paper 1 is fundamentals of sociology, which developed in the West. Paper 2 is about Indian society. So, in paper 2, you would get some current affairs questions. How many? Are you aware of the question paper format? For those who are not, you get 8 questions, out of which you have to attempt 5 questions in paper 1 and same in paper 2. There will be 8 questions, out of which you attempt 5. The 8 questions are subdivided into parts, numbering 28. Yeah, 28. Okay? And the 5 questions you do, you end up attempting 19 parts. Are you with me? So there are 8 questions divided into 28 parts, out of which you attempt 5 questions or 19 parts. Out of the 28 questions, 3 or 4 would be current based in a typical year. Meaning something has happened, something is in the news, and you get a question on that. Okay, directly. Say for example, there is a news that the government is contemplating raising the age of marriage for women from 18 years to 21 years. So you may get a direct question in paper 2, what are the social implications of raising the legal age of marriage for women? Are you with me? Or the government is contemplating, it is on the BJP's agenda to bring about a uniform civil code. So you may get a question, write a short note from a sociological perspective on the uniform civil code. Such questions would be, in a typical year, about 3 to 4, directly from current affairs in sociology, mostly in paper 2. Theek? But the importance of current affairs is not confined to these questions. Even in the other questions, you are advised to, and reasonably strongly advised to, bring in a current affairs dimension, at least in some of your answers. Even if the question is not directly or explicitly on a current affairs issue or topic. For example, you may get a question on patriarchy, a very broad term, a question on patriarchy. On your own, you should be mentioning the hijab ban. Are you with me? It's not a direct question on the hijab ban, but you can talk about hijab as a tool of patriarchal control over women's bodies in the context of the hijab ban in Karnataka. Are you with me? Or if there is a question on, write a short note on ethnic conflicts. You give the example of Manipur, the Manipur violence which is unfolding as we speak. The question is not directly on the Manipur violence, but you bring it in. Are you with me? So when you do that, why should you do that? When you do that, it sends a positive message to the evaluator that you have not mugged up the subject or its theory and simply regurgitating it or blindly reproducing it in the answer sheet. You have understood the subject, developed a connect with it, and you can link whatever theory you have come across with the social world around you. And that makes your answers more marks fetching. ठीक है? So that we can do frequently. We of course cannot do it in all questions. But in several or wherever we can make a decent attempt. And the second part, how will we know where and what to bring and what all to study, we will discuss today itself, but in a later part. Okay? So current affairs is important. It's not as important as, say, in PSIR, right? Which is very, very dynamic, and IR is ever evolving. Modi ji is always traveling. So it's not that kind of a current affairs emphasis in socio. But nevertheless, current affairs does help to make our answers more marks fetching. Okay? So current affairs linkage, we discussed about conceptual clarity, multiple revisions, current affairs linkage, and last but not the least, absolutely, kitni? Very good. Tons of answer writing practice. A lot of answer writing practice. The importance of answer writing practice in the civil services exam cannot be overemphasized, friends. Jitna kar lo kam hai. Why I say that? This exam, after all, is in the main a written exam. It is your writing skill which determines what rank you get, which service you will be allocated, and what will be your career, and whether you find your name in the merit list in the first place or not. Out of 2025 marks on which you are evaluated, 1750 are for writing, the mains. Also, friends, not only is answer writing very, very important, it is also frequently the most neglected aspect of any candidate's UPSC preparation. Look at it positively. If you focus sufficiently on it, you can have a distinct edge over your peers. Because despite my repeated exhortations, most of you will end up ignoring it for reasons best known to you. Now, when should we start writing answers? From the very beginning of your optional preparation. Not after we have completed the syllabus. Not after the prelims. Every week you will get a weekly assignment. Whatever topics are taught to you Monday to Friday, on the weekends you get an assignment. Please, for your own sake, write. Attempt those assignments and submit them. Dhanyavad bhaiya. Do not leave answer writing for a golden date in the distant future. Once I've become a perfect sociologist or acquired immense sociological knowledge, then I will start writing. Because that day will never come. One excuse a lot of students give themselves for not writing answers is the paucity of time. Time nahi hai. Right? So one point of view is, so it's easier for you to say, you are only a sociology teacher. But I am a busy man or woman with so many responsibilities to shoulder. I have history and geography and prelims ka sardard. And so many things. I acknowledge your burden, really. And being fully mindful of your time constraints, I still very strongly advise you to begin answer writing from the beginning of your optional preparation. Friends, it does not take too much of your time. It does not take up too much of your time. It's only a mental bahana or excuse that you give yourselves. कि यार time नहीं answers लिखने का, पढ़ तो लो. how much time you need to devote to answer writing? One assignment a week in which you will be writing 2 to 3 answers. Okay, whatever topics have been taught during the week, on the weekend you get assignment from those topics, questions, and you have to attempt typically 2 to 3. Attempting an assignment will take you initially anywhere from 40-50 minutes. From 40 to 50-55 minutes, initially. Okay? In the actual UPSC exam, what speed you require for a 10 marker, you get about 7 to 8 minutes. Right? So if you're attempting 2 questions in the actual exam, you will take about 15 minutes. 15, 16, 1-5. And initially, since you may be slow or lacking practice, you may take 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, which is not too much. Please appreciate, if you are devoting to a subject about 3.5 to 4 hours a day, you will definitely come for the 2.5 hour class, right? You give this subject that much importance. If you can afford that much time for this subject, you can also surely afford half an hour to 1 hour in a week for writing it down. It's not too much of time. Okay? So please make that time in your busy schedules and devote it for answer writing. You will be doing yourselves, your preparedness, a very big favor if you do so. Also, a lot of students think I'll do it after prelims. Okay, let me first complete the syllabus and पढ़ तो लूं and बाद में देखी जाएगी, अभी तो prelims is hanging over my heads. The time you have between prelims and mains is not adequate to begin with answer writing and master it sufficiently. That time also you will be writing, but that is not the time you should be starting with your answer writing. Please appreciate. So you should be starting now. Also appreciate, friends, it's very difficult to hone your answer writing skill within a short period of 2.5 odd months that you get between prelims and mains. Answer writing is something which you develop gradually. So you don't need to do it for a very lot of, you don't need to devote too much time to it. Little bit of time, half an hour, 40 minutes every week, but on a consistent basis for a long period. All right? And in any subject, friends, in any subject, and it also holds true for sociology, it is one thing to be able to understand it and quite another to be able to write it. Same thing that you know. If one were to ask you, आपको ये समझ आ गया? आप कहोगे हाँ आ गया. If somebody says you लिख दो, you look blank. Really, it happens to the best of us. Or if somebody were to tell you कि explain to him, you will explain to him कि देखिए ऐसा हुआ था, ये concept है. But लिखने में we get stuck. So you need to break that inertia and get down to writing. We will have a dedicated, detailed lecture on answer writing as well. Sometime during the syllabus, possibly in the second week. Okay? Because the first assignment, I want you to write freely without any diktats or guidelines from me. But it will all remain theoretical unless and until you actually get down to writing. So writing is something you master or become better at only by writing and no other way. Another mental block that many students have is that, what if I write bad answers? Naak kat jayegi. Or what will the evaluator think of me? He'll think poorly of me. It's such a stupid answer, or it has grammatical mistakes, or spellings are not correct, or content is not rich. Please don't carry such unnecessary burdens in your mind. The good news, friends, is that the examiner doesn't care. Right? So free yourself from that mental burden. He really couldn't care less about forming an image of you. And the best of people, okay, including those who clear the exam, many who don't, you improve your answer writing only by writing. So you all start by writing bad answers, and with time, you improve upon. Various things will improve. The speed will improve, expression will improve, presentation will improve, everything will improve. And you will yourself witness it, but do it on a consistent basis, week after week after week. ठीक? करोगे? Raise your hands, those who will write answers regularly. Thank you. Raise your hands, those who won't. And I'll ask the person sitting next to them to break that hand. So point is, friends, don't just raise your hands, but also do it. Okay? For your own sake. If you don't do it, I am better placed with fewer copies to evaluate. Okay? But it will be a great disservice to your own exam preparedness. So for your own sake, please take it very, very seriously. Make answer writing an integral part of your preparation and from the beginning of your this thing. In GS, of course, you can perhaps take up answer writing a tad later or more into the syllabus. Because GS is more spread out and different topics, different teachers, many other things are there. But in optional, in sociology in particular, you can and should begin your answer writing from the very beginning. Okay? So we need 4 things to score well. Conceptual clarity, multiple revisions, linking with current affairs, answer writing practice nahi. Tons of answer writing practice, absolutely. Okay? Anything, any doubts you have about anything which has been discussed till now? Feel very free to ask. Raise your hand and ask. Any chote bade doubts in what we have talked about till now? Friends? Online friends as well. Brother? How to do the answer writing every day or weekly basis? That is the question. You start with a weekly assignment. Okay? If you put for yourself a very tall order, right, or a very big target, it may be unachievable. So you start with writing consistently on a weekly basis whatever assignments are given to you. Those of you who've taken up the daily answer writing and weekly test series module along with the foundation course, you begin your daily answer writing when you are somewhat more into the course. When you begin it, possibly once you are done with paper 1 syllabus and paper 2 classes have begun, that is the time you can begin with the daily answer writing and test series, and you'll of course begin with paper 1. So your paper 2 will be going on, and alongside your paper 1 revision and answer writing will be going on. Huh? Does that clarify? Yes? Any other things, friends? Okay. We have a couple of questions. How much overlap is there between general studies and sociology optional? So, in GS papers 1 and 2, you have a portion of Indian society, social issues, social justice. Several social movements are also there. Okay, like women's movements, etc., tribal development, many such topics are there. In GS 1 and GS 2, their weightage would be, I suspect, somewhere in the range of 40-50 marks, near about, each paper. So out of 250 in GS1, about 40-50, and a similar near about in GS2. And what we study here in sociology regarding those topics will be for 95%, 90 to 95% of the topics, it will be more than sufficient. Okay? Save on women's movement. You've got questions in the past in GS 1 and 2, and we will discuss it at length, at greater length than required for GS in sociology. Similarly on tribal development, relevance of caste today, so many issues, unity in diversity, etc. We'll be discussing it at very great length. Okay, amply sufficient for GS papers also. But some topics which may be of importance in GS 1 and 2 will not be covered in sociology because they are not a part of our UPSC sociology syllabus. And our focus here is sociology, and any GS coverage alongside is incidental, I would say. Right? So for example, children related topics, child marriage or child abuse, etc., Juvenile Justice Act, all these things we will not be discussing because they are not there in our sociology syllabus. But they may hold importance in GS. Are you with me? Or say issues like drug addiction. Now drug addiction we will mention in passing. There is this topic in paper 1. There is a thinker called R.K. Merton. Amongst his topics one is deviance. Drug addiction is a type of deviance. So in that context, in passing, we may mention drug addiction. But we will not be discussing the drug addiction or the issue in India at length about the golden quadrilateral or drugs are supplied from here or why Urta Punjab. Yeah, all of that we will not be getting into, or the NDPS Act or this or that. Are you with me? But for 90-95% topics, we'll have a decent grounding here in sociology. I hope that addresses your question, bete. Another question is, what exactly is the difference between anthropology and sociology? Okay, so let me say the two are regarded as sister disciplines. Anthropology and sociology are regarded as sister disciplines. In fact, in many countries, including India, in the early days of the inception of these disciplines, they were not even segregated. They would be a combined kind of a department of sociology and anthropology in many of the universities. What is the difference exactly? And also, let me say, both engage in the study of society. Now, what is the main difference between the two? Anthropology basically studies or focuses on studying primitive societies or small scale tribal groups. While sociology emerged in the context of studying the process of modernization, and the main focus is on studying modern society, the process of modernization, or large scale societies. Okay, and this is of course a very, very rudimentary kind of this thing, but I hope it suffices for now. How to revise? Daily, weekly, monthly basis. I'll be coming to that. In what chronology you will be teaching? I missed that part. So you get back to that part like maybe after the lecture. It won't be appropriate for me to do it again. You'll have the recording of the lecture once the lecture is over for the online students. Have we discussed about the sources? The books? Haven't? Okay. So coming to the resources, one of the students is also asking, and of course it's a very pertinent question. So what are the resources one should be referring to for sociology? But I suspect that is very common public knowledge. We all know the usual suspects. क्या हैं good resources for sociology? बताइए. Essential sociology, NCERTs. So you said Sangwan, and what else? NCERTs. Harlambos. There are two Harlamboses. One is the blue Harlambos, which is also in green now, the big fat book, and the orange Harlambos. Yeah. What else? Sorry? Ritzer. Or इग्नू मटेरियल, बट ऐसे कैसे? इग्नू BA मटेरियल एंड इग्नू MA मटेरियल. और ठीक है, दे आर लाइक, दे आर नॉट योर स्टडी सोर्स, दे आर ऑफ कोर्स लाइक अ यूजफुल गाइड. What other books have you heard of? Yeah? Only these? None other? There are many, yeah? None for paper 2? Ramahuja. What else? सारे sociologists बोल डालेंगे हम. श्रीनिवास, बिल्कुल. What else? Sorry? हाँ, नागला ना. हाँ, नागला, BK नागला. और SC दुबे. और ठीक है, कॉम्पिटिटर्स नोट्स. टीचर्स नोट्स. और टॉपर्स नोट्स, फेमस तुषारांशु नोट्स. हाँ, और योगेंद्र सिंह, CN शंकर राव, बीना दास. और योजना कुरुक्षेत्र, हाँ, EPW, ऑल ऑफ दैट. ठीक है, try read all these. It's not practically feasible. So friends, most of these are very good materials. I have referred to most of them except for these and these. No, this I have seen, this and this. I have not seen these. But other than that, the standard books I have seen all, read most of them and quite thoroughly. But this is my bread and butter, not yours. Right? So you can't devote all your time to reading these many sources. This is not to comment on their integrity or comment upon their, they're good books. They're actually very good books. But your approach to the exam has to be very, very pragmatic. If you study these many sources, you'll end up studying only sociology, which doesn't serve your purpose. So your list of resources or books should be comprehensive but minimal. Whole of the UPSC sociology syllabus we have to cover, including the PYQs. Okay, all syllabus topics and PYQs of the last 8 to 10 years. But referring to basic minimum number of sources possible. Please appreciate the nature of this exam, friends. It is source blind. In other words, they will never ask you a question that what is Weber's theory of bureaucracy as outlined in Ritzer, okay, or as mentioned in Tusharanshu notes. They will never do that, right? They will ask you what is Weber's theory of bureaucracy and its critical evaluation. And the examiner, the evaluator, doesn't care from where you have acquired that knowledge and how much content you need on a particular topic. For a 10 marker, you are writing 2 pages or about 150 words. For a 20 marker, you are writing 3 or 4 pages or about 225, 280 odd words. That is all the content which is required on a particular topic, and from whichever source. That source has to be authentic and you should be able to understand from it. These are the 2 things. Okay? And the more number of sources you add, the more you burden yourself mentally and on the table physically, your study table. So don't clutter it, have clarity, keep it simple, keep it minimal. Which sources you refer to? A, the base will be your class notes. Your own handwritten, old style class notes. All right? For both papers. Then consider a near mandatory read. Essential Sociology by Nitin Sangwan. This one. All right? Second edition. It's a single book which covers both papers. So you don't have like two books, it's one book which has both papers in it. Consider these two, the base, class notes as the base and some reference definitely from Sangwan. Apart from this, for paper 1, you may refer two additional sources I'm mentioning. Harlambos and Holborn. The name of the book is Sociology, Themes and Perspectives by, do you want me to write? Harlambos and Holborn, 8th edition. Okay. The name of the book is Sociology, Themes and Perspectives. Okay, so it comes in two colors, blue and green. Both are same and both are good. The smaller sized book is by a different set of authors, Harlambos and Held. Okay, and that is orange in color, and that is not to be taken up because it is slightly dated in content. This is more updated, okay, and more recent studies and more useful for our purposes. Okay, not the orange one, the blue or green Harlambos, the big thick one. This or the institute material. Which institute? This, not this or that. Okay. The institute material that will be provided to you. For paper 2, your sources will be class notes again as the foundation and supplemented by A. Nitin Sangwan, the same book. B, if need be and if time permits, the institute material. Okay? And the daily newspaper. The daily newspaper for current linkages. Now, how do we study from these books or these sources? You'll have a 2.5 hour lecture daily. After the lecture, of course, during the lecture, you make detailed notes and also pay attention, connect with the subject. After the lecture, you go back home or go back to your room and devote another 1 to 1.5 hours that had been suggested to you. During that 1.5 hour, what do? One is you look at the lecture notes again. Read them, revise them. Devoting, say, about 20 to 30 minutes to the process. Whatever you had studied today, go home or go to your room before the next lecture. Okay? So either later in the day today or tomorrow, but before the next lecture, you revise your class notes, devoting about 20 to 30 minutes to the process. Then you pick up the reference books. Reference books meaning surely Sangwan. Study the same topic which has been taught in the class from Sangwan. Okay? And if time permits, and you are up to it, then also another material which could be, say, for paper 1, either the institute material or Harlambos and Holborn. Okay? When you refer to these sources, also let me clarify, Sangwan, friends, is a good book in the sense it is written for the UPSC exam. So all of it is relevant content. It gives us, in brief, a sociological content on various syllabus topics and, topic-wise. So you have a topic, emergence of sociology. It will give you sociological content on that. Then you have another topic, sociology in common sense. It will give you in sequence and everything. So It's a useful guidebook, okay, for UPSC, sociology, this thing. So whatever topic is taught in the class, you say we study today emergence of sociology, you go home and study the same topic from Sangwan. And also if time permits, then another source. Now you don't have to read them back to back. In other words, you don't have to read them very minutely, you have to read them very glancingly. Nazar marni. And anything useful that you find in these books, you can add it to your notes or underline there and then. Okay, highlight there and then. Clear? Please appreciate now, since I'm teaching the same topic and you're reading the same topic in the book, there will be a lot of repetition. There's bound to be. Try to skip through whatever has already been captured in the class lecture. But anything new you find, say some scholar's reference, which was not there in the lecture, or some diagram which I did not share here, and you find it attractive or useful, you make that a part of your notes. So whatever is new, useful, and you can understand, that is what you pick up from the book. It is my earnest attempt to, that 95 to 99% of your content requirements are dealt with in the class itself. All right? 1 to 5% additions I expect you to do from the reference sources. So for that, you kind of skim through and identify whatever is new from the reference books. Also, Harlambos and Holborn is not written for the UPSC exam. So a lot of it is not useful for our purposes and we need to simply skip it. Which pages are worth or useful for our purposes, that will be shared with you in a PDF that for this topic you can refer these pages and so on and so forth. So Harlambos has to be read very selectively if you are referring to it. Acha, if you come across any phrase, concept, viewpoint in any of these books, Sangwan or whatever, which you don't understand, what do? You ignore it. And I'm saying it with full responsibility, friends. Okay? And why I'll explain. Reason is it is not these sources that they'll be making the UPSC would make its questions from. Right? We will be sufficiently, in the class lectures itself, sufficiently capturing the PYQs and the various dimensions which need to be. So these books are only an add-on to your class notes, which will serve as the base, which will be quite comprehensive by themselves. Sometimes the English language is tough, or the explanation is somewhat convoluted, tedi-medi, roundabout, which makes it difficult to understand. So let go, learn to let go. Don't get stuck up, कि यार ये नहीं समझ आया, यही समझना है. For all you know, it won't matter. But what you do find useful, please pick it up and incorporate it in your notes. Are you with me? For example, you discuss any theory. Okay, Durkheim's theory of religion. Some scholar, Durkheim, his theory of religion, we have to study, we study. We will discuss it at length. We'll discuss several criticisms of it also. You come across 3 more criticisms in these books, out of which 2 you can understand. 1 you are unable to make sense of. So what do? You let go of the one which is not making sense to you, and the 2 you understand, you make it a part of your notes, your learning. Okay, they will not ask you, what did that guy, which you didn't understand, what did that guy have to say about Durkheim's theory of religion? Are you with me? So that is how you approach these resources. Any doubts regarding any of this? Any aspect? Chhod do, let go. She's asking about NCRTs. NCRTs are decent resource and very useful in other portions for your GS preparation, many of the like history, etc. But for sociology, they are very, very introductory texts. Also, somewhat arbitrary in terms of the topics they are there. Okay, so they don't serve much purpose. I typically recommend NCRTs only to students who are confused or at that stage, when they are still choosing between optionals. So if they have to make up their minds, should I take anthro or socio, I do recommend glance through the NCRTs of both 11th and 12th NCRTs. To that extent, they are useful, but not for syllabus coverage, once you've made up your mind regarding the optional. Theek? Any other? Na? Online student is asking whether how will we be provided the study material. It will be a soft copy you will be provided. Should we refer to NPTEL lectures? The course lectures should suffice. Okay, NPTEL lectures can be decent, though a tad monotonous, but in tone, but I mean they're authentic, and if need be, they can be referred to on a need basis, not necessarily. Is there any journal or paper specifically for sociology current affairs? Coming to current affairs, you are not expected to or advised to refer to any sociology journals, papers, etc., or for that matter, EPW, Economic and Political Weekly. These are good, no doubt, but then, they are a digression for you guys, or they're much more than what you guys need for your purpose. For sociology current affairs, you have to read the daily newspaper. Which newspaper? The Hindu or the Indian Express, whichever you are presently reading. Most of you are possibly stuck with the Hindu, right? And it is making your lives hellish. So let it do that. Huh? But both Indian Express and Hindu are good. My personal, I prefer as a newspaper overall Indian Express far better than the Hindu, but the Hindu I concede is more popular amongst aspirants for whatever reasons. Both are decent. Whichever you are currently following, keep following that. No specific periodicals, journals, research papers, etc. We are not doing a PhD. We are here for a very limited purpose. Secondly, on the IS Gurukul website, at the bottom there is a current sociology link. You can click on that now and then and glance through the articles which are there. There we have analyzed various current issues from a sociological perspective. Okay? Whether it is hijab ban or uniform civil code. There's this concept of chosen pronouns nowadays. Yeah, are you aware? So you guys use them in your Twitter bios and all? She oblique her, he oblique him. You know? So that fad, whatever, all these things we try to make sense of. Also, friends, I will be doing a lot of that job, since I am also reading the same newspapers, not the Hindu, but the same news I am exposed to, and part of the same society. So I will be connecting various syllabus topics to current happenings or mentioning them wherever this thing. As we proceed into the syllabus, with time you will also develop that facility to link various syllabus topics or various current affairs with the syllabus topics. It is no rocket science. Only an awareness of the contours of the syllabus topics, will help you develop that linkage. For example, there's this news about sexual harassment of female athletes. We can use it on a question on patriarchy or the feminist movement. Yes or no? You have violence in Manipur. You can use it in a question on ethnic conflict or ethnic movements. The Kuki Naga versus Meeti conflict in Manipur. Are you with me? You had the hijab ban in Karnataka. You can use it in a question on patriarchy or law and social change. Are you with me? Or the concerns of the Muslim community in India. Or even questions of secularism and communalism. Yes or no? Now, all these connections that we made, they don't require a deep sociological insight, but only knowledge of what the syllabus topics are. Are you with me? So I'll be doing that. As you get more familiar with the syllabus topics and the contours of the syllabus, you will also be able to do it. Theek? So that is about current affairs. Does that answer it sufficiently? How to read newspaper specifically for sociology. A, you don't read it specifically for sociology. You read newspaper for your overall UPSC preparation. In it, you will come across news regarding various sections of the society. You may come across women-related news items. Okay, you may come across tribals-related news items. Minority community-related news items. Are you with me? Caste-related issues or news items. So, likewise, in our mental map, we will create these broad categories. And then, whenever we come across a relevant news item, we can make mention of that in our notes. So, for example, if we are studying patriarchy in India, or the issues of Muslim community in India, therein we can make a mention, example, hijab ban in Karnataka. Simple. Clear? So I hope that addresses. What is ethnicity? I should not have possibly used that word. I won't be able to do justice to explaining, in this lecture. Let us just say ethnicity refers to, in very crude terms, the kind of social grouping one belongs to and feels strongly attached to. Okay? Is there any must-read text before coming to the class? The answer is no, there is none. Come to the class blank. I assume you know nothing except for having lived in the society on which we'll build upon. After the class, do the reading of the same topic which has been discussed during the day from the suggested books. Clear? If you read before, it becomes more difficult to understand and, make sense of yourself. Once it has been taught to you, it's far easier to understand from a book. So that for working professionals, will we be provided any monthly current affairs compilation? No special treatment to working professionals. And regarding current affairs, you will have this current sociology link on the IS Gurukul website homepage at the bottom. You can refer to it. Do we need to study thinkers other than those mentioned in the syllabus? The answer is yes. You have 6 thinkers, for instance, in paper 1 syllabus. But apart from that, in every topic that we do, say family or religion, etc., we will be discussing various those and other thinkers as well. All right? Will you give day-to-day questions for practice? For those of you who have taken up the daily assignment writing, you will be given daily answer writing questions, but that you will begin with the commencement of the paper 2 classes. All right, and otherwise, all the students will be given weekly assignment tests. So that is that. Chaliye, so we've discussed the resources. We've discussed how to refer to these sources also. Coming to notes making. Theek? At the back, can you please call somebody from the outside? Yeah. Just 1 second, because she's gone out, so it won't be fair of me to continue without her. So, we were now to discuss notes making. Now, one issue with notes making is that should we be doing it at all? Given the fact that there is already a plethora of books, etc., study materials, or for that matter, I can also give you previous year students' handwritten notes. AC चला दीजिए, थोड़ी गर्मी हो रही है. So should we be, and notes making is admittedly a very tedious kind of a process. So should we make notes? क्यों? जब already है, then why? We are able to put it in simpler words ourselves. Yes, good. So yes, friends, you do have printed sources, books like Sangwan and so many others and everything. Or you can simply take even another student's handwritten notes. Still, I will advise you to make your own handwritten notes for the following reasons. And knowing that it is time consuming and tedious, A, it will help you improve your writing speed, which will come in very handy in the actual exam. Okay? Speed is something all of us are, lacking. Writing speed, and it will help us develop writing speed. Second, it will help you to develop the ability to express yourself in words. So, during the lecture, you will be expected to make detailed notes, which will comprise of some dictated portions, and the other will be like a lot of discussion and explanation happening, and you would be expected to make running notes of those things as well. All right? Wherever I feel that I should be dictating, I will be dictating, say, definitions and key features or stuff like that. But then I will, of course, for every 2.5 hour lecture, I won't be only dictating, I'll also be discussing and explaining a lot. Right? And after a brief explanation, I may pause for a bit to give you time to summarize it and write it in your own words. So that will help you or compel you to develop the ability to express yourself, condense your thoughts and express yourself in writing on paper, which is required for this exam. Okay? And also, friends, each of us has greater comfort with our own handwriting than another person's. Saaf baat hai. Every person makes notes for their own use rather than another person's, right? So it is always preferable to have notes in one's own handwriting. Also, some students told me this, in fact, and found it very interesting. It also helps in revising. And how that works is there's something called muscle memory. Okay? So that kind of facilitates in recall when you write in the actual examination. Long story short, you are advised to make detailed class notes in every lecture. On the weekend, so 5 days a week, during the class you'll be making class notes. On Saturday, you are advised to do what? Okay, let me say the whole thing, how you are expected to, or what you are expected to do. 5 days a week, you'll be attending classes 2.5 hours, during which you'll also be making detailed class notes. You go home before the next class, revise and recall twice, plus use the reference books or book. Okay? If time permits, then 2 sources, otherwise at the very least, Sangwan. Okay? On Saturdays and Sundays when you don't have classes, what are you expected to do? A, revise the whole week syllabus. Like I had said, we'll need multiple revisions earlier on. This will be your 3rd revision. So twice the same day, 2 revisions the same day, 3rd revision on a weekly basis, or whatever was covered in the previous week, the whole week syllabus. And also make summary notes over the weekend. Summary notes matlab only the main things. Say the topic heading, the book in which it is mentioned, right? The scholar who gave that concept, the definition, features, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just the listing of the features, not their explaining or elaboration. Are you with me? Some criticisms, that's about it. So whatever detailed notes in your lecture notes, if you have a topic in say 7-8 pages, in the summary notes you'll have them in say 1.5 page. Because during the class you will write extensively. You can't even discern very frankly what is to be written and what is to be not, practically speaking. So you end up writing everything. A lot of students end up writing everything. Right? On the weekend at leisure, you can like look back, acha, ye to maine 3 baar likh diya. I also tend to repeat, like you must have noticed by now. I tend to repeat so that it gets to you, basically. So it will also happen during the lecture. So you might end up writing the same thing twice or thrice. So in your summary notes, you mention things only once and only the key terms, etc. And these summary notes that you will make, they will come in handy later on for quick multiple revisions. So on the weekend, you make summary notes, revision of the whole week syllabus, and on Sundays, the weekly assignment test. Right. Okay? So this is the schedule you are expected to follow over the period of next 4 to 5 months. Theek? In your notes, it will be advisable if you highlight scholars' names. Highlight scholars' names. Their concepts are very simple. A lot of things they say are very intuitive, very relatable. But you forget who said what, bluntly. Okay, so you need to recall scholars. And anything you write, if you write it attributing that viewpoint to a scholar, fetches more marks than the same viewpoint being expressed as yours. Simply. Okay? So you need to bring in scholarly references in your answers. To remember scholars' names, please highlight them so that they stand out and you can remember. Theek? So this is about that. Some questions are there demanding my attention. Does the course start with NCRTs, means from the basics? It starts from the basics, but not from the NCRTs. So I'll not be referring to NCRTs, but yes, we will be taking baby steps into the discipline of sociology. Being fully aware that most of you, overwhelming majority, don't have a background in the subject. How to cover PYQs? That's another question, and a very legitimate one. PYQs are very important, I would say. It's at least as far as sociology goes. More so in paper 1. In paper 1, questions are often quite repetitive from a very, not exact language, but in a very narrow domain they keep asking. Okay, so from emergence of sociology, they'll ask 3-4 types of questions. It is quite set. Link it to Enlightenment or Industrial and French Revolution or modernity in general. Year after year, they will be asking near about the same thing in a slightly different language. So PYQs are very important. Secondly, how long back in the past do we go while referring to PYQs? 8 to 10 years, not more than that. Many of the PYQ books that you see, they would have since 1985 and so on. Don't go that back in the past. Okay, you need to draw a line somewhere, and 10 years is a decent horizon. Thirdly, how to cover PYQs? So, I will be mindful of what is being asked in the PYQs during the lectures. So, I'll be doing much of that. Secondly, during when you attempt the weekly assignments, they will also be sufficiently, PYQs will be sufficiently, not all of course, but sufficiently reflected in the weekly assignments. So when you open that, you run through all of them, try to frame answers in your mind, write a couple of them, and that is how we do it. Okay? So I hope that addresses it. Will you dictate or do we make running notes? I think I did address that somewhere. It will be a combination of both. There will be portions I'll be dictating, and then the rest, discussion and explaining, that you will be making running notes for. Will there be any support from the institute side even after the course completion? You can, of course, revert for any kind of aid you require, or if you have not, later on you are opening your notes and you are unable to recall what this means or that, you can always revert and we'll be very happy to oblige you. Explaining whatever this thing you need. Okay? Any doubts, friends, from here? Anything? Any big or small? Anything? Raise your hands, please. Yeah. Sorry? The weekly tests will be online. The weekly assignments that you submit, okay, from the first week, you won't be having classes on Saturdays and Sundays. So to write 2 or 3 answers, it may not be advisable to travel all the way, etc. So you write it from your room or home and upload it on the portal. The submission will anyways be online or on the portal. If you have taken the answer writing and test series module, okay, daily answer writing and test series module, in which you have daily answers being written, given to you and submitting, and on the weekend you have 3-hour tests of 250 marks each. So in that, for the weekly tests, those weekly tests, 250 marker 3-hour tests, it will be advisable to give them over here. Okay? Under invigilation and basically that. Brother? Okay, so I somewhere use the term sociological perspective, and what does that mean? Okay, I'll be taking up that question at length while discussing answer writing, but let me just touch upon it since you ask. One thing that would make an answer sociological would be quoting the views of sociologists. That is one way of making it sociological. Another would be using sociological terms or jargon, appropriately, of course. Not a free hand, but appropriately using the relevant sociological terms in a proper context. And we'll be talking more about this when we discuss answer writing. Yes? Anything? We'll take it up. Like after this round of questioning, that's a very legitimate demand. We'll definitely. Any other questions? Now I think everybody's geared up for the break, so there's this, conspiracy of silence ki koi nahi puchega. Any other doubts? Brother? हाँ. He's saying when I write answers, I feel everything is important, and then of course I can't express myself within the limited time and space that you have. So there will be a lot of, and this problem will be there in sociology also. For a lot of topics, you will have far more content than what you can easily fit into 150 words. Yes. For example, friends, you'll be studying about the position of women in society in both papers 1 and 2. Okay? You can get a question, you will have so much content, you can write a 10 to 15 page essay. You can get an essay in the essay paper on patriarchy, and you will have more than ample content for that. You may also get a 10-marker question, write a short note on patriarchy. So how do you condense that knowledge is a legitimate challenge. But then there are certain ways that we employ to overcome it. One is you have to be selective. Not everything that you know on a topic may be deserving mention in the answer. Give me a moment. So say if you are writing on patriarchy, you will, and writing a short note on patriarchy for 10 marks in 150 words, you will be taking a bird's eye view. So you will be talking about patriarchy within the family. How religion is patriarchal, education system, political system, economy. You may know, for instance, a lot of nitty-gritty. You may know a concept of glass ceiling and glass escalator, gaslighting, numerous others, okay, associated with patriarchy or patriarchal bargain. You will learn all these things as we proceed. but you will not use them for a 10 marker in patriarchy. You have to decide the relative importance of this thing. Secondly, when you have more content, which you want to present in a condensed form, you can use some presentation methods. For example, write in points form rather than paragraphs, because you tend to shorten things writing in points form. Some things you represent pictorially or in a diagram. So these are some of the ways, and we will be talking about these things at some greater length when we discuss answer writing. और बताइए? Yes, raise your hand there, please. Whoever said, brother. A very legitimate question. That the language in essential sociology is very complex. Does the examiner expect that kind of language from us in the answer papers? Or can we write in simpler language? The answer is, you can verily, without losing marks, write in simpler language. Okay? But using the appropriate sociological terms and jargons in your answer. So don't mimic or copy the sentence construction from Nitin Sangwan. Don't copy or take away the, English language that he is using. But the sociological concepts. Use your own language, sentence construction. But the sociological concepts. So there's some concept called anomie or alienation given by different scholars. Those concepts you will have to use. They are not so much English, but sociological jargon. And your typical answer or typical writing in sociology would be 90 to 95% English, which should be yours. 5-7% these terms or jargons. Okay? Yes? Beti? She's asking, do we have to only cover sociological aspects, or do we also have to cover political, economic, etc.? When we say sociological, okay, society in this discipline, we consider it the overarching entity which contains within itself the political system, the economy, religion, family, all of these. So these dimensions which you are, in your question, it is implicit that they are different. They are considered a part of sociological analysis. So will be covered or should be covered in our answers. And just to give you a broad this thing, we will be taking up, just to reiterate, answer writing at length in a detailed lecture. Any other thing about the basics, brother? Between? Let's keep it for the answer writing session. I have a well-developed answer to that, but I'll rather give it then, because I'll be discussing various aspects of it. I won't be able to do justice to that question in a brief this thing. Okay? His question was whether to write in para form or points form. We'll be taking that up when we discuss answer writing. Anything else about the pedagogy or how you're supposed to prepare? Beti? Can we avoid crosstalk, please? Yeah. will need to know more about your level of preparation and what sources you've relied upon to be able to answer that question. What specifically you are lacking, I'll need more insight into your preparation, which we can possibly discuss one-on-one. Any other thing, friends? Chalo, you get what you want, which is a well-deserved 5 minutes odd break. Thank you. And then we recommence, don't leave. Hello. Hi friends. Welcome back. Hope we are a little fresher. ठीक है. Is there any change in timing of classes? The answer is no. There's a question asked. Should we start the test series only after completion of paper 1? The answer is yes. That will be advisable. So while your paper 2 lectures are going on, you start with the test series and questions of paper 1. And before that, of course, you do the weekly assignments, right? On a regular basis. So that is that. Now, let us take a very, very brief overview of sociology, right? Any of you have any lingering doubts? Feel very free to ask. Or you like enough of that? आगे चलते हैं. So आगे चलते हैं. So friends, what is sociology? What do you think it is? I know you don't have a background in the subject, but you have made this choice of sociology as your optional. So some thinking, some research must have gone into it. What did you learn? What is sociology? Raise your hands and speak. Brother? It is the scientific study of society. You were saying it is the study of society. And he is suggesting, no, it is scientific study of society. Not any which study of society, but a scientific study of society. Beti. Okay, so she is saying it is the study of public social life. So, are you suggesting, when you say that, what is typically regarded as private life, say family life, say sexuality, these are regarded as typically private. In some cultures, religion or religious beliefs and practices are regarded as private affairs. Are you suggesting these are out of the purview of sociology? और बताइए. Yes, brother? Sociology is a web of social relationships. I'm not asking you what is society. I'm asking you what is sociology. Yeah? Studying social relationships is sociology, all right. Yes? Brother? How people or individuals behave in a society and bounded by canons of procedure. That's such legalese, like possibly. Do you have a like law background or something? No, but theek hai. Okay, or let's say bounded by the dictats of the society, or the societal do's and don'ts in simplest possibly language, by the societal do's and don'ts, how people are bounded by them. Okay, Beti. So another distinction here which has come is, it is the systematic study of society, not purely or necessarily scientific study of society. Beti? How entities in the society interact with each other. And what are these entities? Human beings? Social institutions could be those entities. Social groups could be those entities. It is the study of society, and it's very nicely put, and its stakeholders. The study of human interactions in a society. Relationship between the people of a community. Social, or the study of relationship between the people of a community. Study of society from different viewpoints and at different levels. Yes? So yes, friends, this is what sociology is. At a very fundamental level, and that is from where we begin our understanding of the subject. Sociology is socio plus logy. Logy means study of, like in the word psychology or zoology or biology or various other logies. Biology is study of bio or life forms. Zoology is study of animals, and so on and so forth. Psychology is the study of the psyche. So sociology is the study of, socio here as a prefix standing for society. So simply, or at its most basic level, sociology is the study of society. Please write down. Sociology is the systematic and scientific study of society. In the year 1838, Auguste Comte combined the Latin term socius with the Latin term, combine the Latin term socius in brackets, meaning what? Yes, absolutely, meaning ally or companion or friend, comrade. It means something like, yar or jigri. Okay, but you don't write that. The Latin term socius, meaning companion or ally, bracket close, with the Greek term for knowledge, i.e., that is logos, to establish sociology as a new discipline dedicated to the scientific study of society. To the scientific study of society. Full stop. For Kingsley Davis, sociology is a general science of society. For Kingsley Davis, sociology is a general science of society. All right? So, friends, now I'm not dictating, I'm discussing or talking to you guys. So, friends, sociology is widely regarded as a science of society. Okay? Comte is widely regarded as the founding father of the modern discipline of sociology. He is credited with having coined the term sociology, right? Thereby playing a very seminal role in the founding of the discipline. All right? Kingsley Davis is, of course, a much later scholar, 20th century scholar. Sociology is therefore regarded or very widely regarded as a scientific study of society. What do we mean when we say it is the scientific study of society? We'll be addressing that question at length in a later lecture, but just for the start now. What do you understand or what does it mean when we say it's the scientific study? Yeah? We study with reasoning, okay. Beti?
We make use of data and patterns.
We make use of empirical data, very importantly. We rely upon proven facts. Conduct experiments, or there's a certain methodology, what we call the scientific methodology, which is used, right? Which involves experimentation, data gathering, and then, a very objective, detached kind of a processing of that data. Absolutely. Raise your hands. Beti. Objectivity and rationality. Logic and analytics. Yes? So you just adjusting your hair. Yeah? Establishing cause and effect relations. Absolutely. So, yes, a lot of sociologists, including founding fathers like Auguste Comte, were of the view that sociology is a scientific study of society. Later on, however, 20th century, beginning with some fellows, some scholars, that view also began to be challenged. All right? We'll come to that later on. So, when we say we study society, may I clear it up? When we say we study society, what exactly do we study? What is really the subject matter of sociology? We study, friends, various social institutions is a big, complex sounding, heavy kind of words. Chota word batao. Facts, that's like a very technical concept, no? Social facts, it's like one scholarly thing. Social groups. Okay? We study various social groups. Normal English. What do you understand by social groups? I'm not expecting a definition, but just your layman understanding of what is a social group. Raise hands, brother. Okay, so he's explained what is social groups by giving a very appropriate example of it. Family, for example, is a social group. Yes, Beti? Group of individuals, she says, who share similar interests. So say, a family is a social group, you'll agree with him. Do family members necessarily share similar interests? Beti?
Common caste
Common caste.
for the same traditions and culture and from
So you are suggesting homogeneity
No, not caste. It does.
of any sort, of a cultural. Okay, brother. Yeah. Very interestingly put, people who have like more than average interaction within a group, in a setup. Yes. So those who stay in a particular area, a geographical connotation is there to a social group. You're suggesting, those who reside like close by. I'm afraid not, and as we proceed, it will become clear why. Do you have like family WhatsApp groups with members all across? Are they social groups? WhatsApp groups? They very much are. They very much are. They may be residing in different parts of the globe, different parts of the country. Beti? Any categorization. Beti? You'll have to be a little louder than that. I heard you, but I didn't get you, very honestly. Anything that is structured. Give me some example of what you're trying to say. So you're saying social groups are cohorts basically. Structured. To the members. Okay. Brother? People who cooperate and coordinate. Very interesting. Cooperate and coordinate. Beti? Very basic and intuitive. A group based on some commonality. Castes are social groups, peer groups are social groups, families are social groups. Like a village community is a social group. Absolutely, they're all legitimate examples. Brother? Very clever. He says all groups found in the society are social groups. So nobody is suggesting that it's a static entity. So he's saying you should not define social groups too rigidly because new ones may appear as society evolves, and any rigid definition may, be somewhat restrictive and not inclusive enough to incorporate those newer kinds of groupings. Final comments, brother? Yes. Defined roles and common goals. Not necessarily, very frankly. Yes? Very interesting and almost a near sociological kind of a definition. There's a phrase we use, consciousness of kind, that members of a group possess. Interacting in some way. Great. तो लिखो. ठीक है? What have you written last? one person, please. Betty? Okay, according to Davis, sociology is a general science of society. Full stop. In sociology, we study various social groups. Full stop. A social group refers to a number of people who are somewhat in interaction with each other and have some consciousness of membership. And have some consciousness of membership. Okay? So social groups, friends, can be of how many? It's visually before you. 2 types. Social groups may be of 2 types. Wait, 1 second. Primary social groups and very good secondary social groups. I'm just very briefly introducing sociology to you and some commonly used terms. Okay? A lot of them appear to be normal English terms, but they carry a certain meaning in the subject. So what are primary groups and secondary groups, friends? Primary groups are basically small sized, have frequent. Don't write later. First understand. So they are typically small sized groups, have frequent, regular, face-to-face interaction, and yes, relationships are personal and emotional within a primary group. Any primary group comes to mind of which you are a member? Family. The classic example of a primary group. Small sized hai, emotional relationships hai, frequent interaction hai. Secondary groups are the opposite kind, namely they are large sized. Interaction is less frequent and relations are formal, impersonal, unemotional, etc. Any secondary groups of which you're a member of? Classroom. Huh? This classroom is a secondary group. All right? Clear है? तो लिखो. A primary group is typically small in size, with its members engaged in regular face-to-face interaction, relationships within a primary group are personal, intimate, and emotional. Full stop. Secondary groups, for example, पहले तो primary groups का example दे मारो, family. Secondary groups, on the other hand, are larger in size, एकदम उल्टा. Comma, there is less frequent interaction between its members. And relationships among them are formal, impersonal, and unemotional. For example, a university. Yeah? Clear? Please appreciate, friends, another nice way of understanding the distinction between these two. It is often said, and with legitimacy, that primary groups are person-focused. Primary groups are person-focused, while secondary groups are purpose-focused. Secondary groups are purpose-focused. Primary groups are person-focused, while secondary groups are purpose-focused. Why do we say that? When you say primary groups are person-focused, meaning what? It is not for any specific motive or purpose that one participates as a member of a primary group. Are you with me? But in secondary groups, you are there for a specific, narrow, mostly well-defined purpose or end goal. For example, you live in a family. Do you do so with a specific intent or purpose? कि जायदाद चाहिए या डेली का खाना चाहिए or anything? No. In a primary group setting, an individual is the multiple needs of an individual are catered to, including financial, social, emotional, psychological, sexual, and so on and so forth. Are you with me? So you are not meeting your parents or siblings or spouse for a very specific or narrow purpose. You're meeting them or living with them, interacting with them because that's simply what is a part of your life. घर में किसी पर्पस से जाते हो, एंटर करते हो, जीते हो? नहीं, जीते हो क्योंकि जीते हैं. तो focus of the primary group is what? The well-being of every individual member. Every member of a primary group is somewhat valued for his or her own sake. Okay? In a secondary group, on the other hand, it is mostly very purpose-driven. For example, the modern, large-scale organizations like, say, an office, right? Or a large-scale educational institute. Yeah? Why do you go there? Why have you come here? With a very specific, limited, narrow, well-defined purpose, which is to aid you in your preparation of clearing the civil services exam. You go to an office if you're an employee with a specific purpose of earning your living. And then all interactions are also within it formal and purposive with, the goal of attaining the organizational goals. Say it's an IT organization, so you come together to understand the client's needs, develop code or whatever IT guys do. Are you with me? So, primary groups are person-focused, while secondary groups are purpose-focused. Any other primary groups other than the family that you can think of? A group of friends, close friends would be a primary group. Okay? So that we are clear on the concepts. Now tell me, where would you classify the joint family? A large size joint family with 22 members living under a roof. Is it a primary group or a secondary group? Despite its relatively large size, is it still a primary group? Yes. Because person focused hai, relationships are personal and intimate and emotional. It's not a goal driven or purpose driven, right? What about a sports team? Say the Indian cricket team. Is it a primary group or a secondary group? Is it large in size or small? Small. Is interaction amongst them frequent or infrequent? Frequent. अरे सिर्फ प्रैक्टिस के लिए बहुत मिलते हैं, सिर्फ खेलते टाइम नहीं कि चलो वहीं शारजा में मिलेंगे, है ना? Are relations within that the sports team intimate, or is it loosely knit or tightly knit? Quite tightly knit. Then why do we call it a secondary group? Because it is purpose driven. But it also has a lot of features which seemingly make it appear as a primary group. Yes or no? You've all passed through universities and colleges which are which groups? Secondary groups. But within those institutions, did you have a close circle of friends which were what? Primary groups. What I'm trying to drive home, friends, that such classifications that we often employ in academia or in the discipline of sociology, they appear very neat and clean, very clear categorization. But in actual social world, things are often quite messy. You cannot neatly classify a sports team as either clearly primary or clearly secondary. Perhaps it would lie somewhere between the two, possessing some characteristics of both. Or you may have a situation like you did pass out from, that within a larger secondary group there are several primary groups. Or you may have a primary group like a big joint family, which in terms of at least size resembles a secondary group. Are you with me? So that is that. Okay? And so we will call it a day here, right? Slightly arbitrary, but then it's your first day, so I'm also being gentle, you know? And so thank you guys, and we'll continue in the next lecture. Anything if you have, feel free to ask. And yeah, Betty. One second.